We'll talk some Miami Heat right here with your Miami Heat television analyst from Bally Sports Sun. You can, of course, watch that tonight on Bally Sports Sun. Pregame starting at 7 o'clock. John Crotty has the call alongside Eric Reed. John joining us here on the Toyota of Hollywood guest line. Shop over 1,500 Toyotas indoors at one of America's largest showrooms at Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. John, thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, guys. How you doing this morning?
You tell me, how are you doing with the way the season has gone up and down? And I could hear on the call how frustrated you get just from being a former player. Like, there's no consistency, and you're like, how do you feel?
Yeah, it's been a challenge at times, right? Step forward, a step back. I think inconsistency is a great way to put it, Leroy. I mean, I think early on, you could point to a lot of bodies and injuries, guys being out, but that hasn't been the case as of late, as we've had a really healthy group with the exception of Kyle Lowry. I think the biggest head scratcher for me has been the 3-point shooting. It's really strange because you would look to, all right, maybe there's been some personnel changes. All right, maybe we're not getting the same shots, but we've had predominantly the same guys and shooters, right? And then you look at the quality of the shots we're getting. Are they good shots? And that's the coaching staff's job. And I think they've done a good job. They're getting open threes. And they just haven't made them to the point where they were number one in the league in percentage a year ago. And, they're like 28th or something now out of 30 teams. And obviously that analytic really matters when you get that extra point on those makes.
Is this? I've said this over and over again. I've never seen a team lead the league in a stat like that and then be bottom of the league that quick with the same players. It just doesn't happen. Like a bad season would be if you fall down to the middle of the pack,
right?
Not the bottom. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I mean you would typically think it would be injury driven, right? Your key 3-point shooters are out. Or a personnel change of some sort. So that's the thing to me that I, and I pride myself as an analyst at looking at this stuff and trying to figure out, all right, this is why this is happening. That's my, my job. But it's honestly, it's very hard to explain. It really is, because the quality of the shots, I think, are still there.
John, after the loss to the New York Knicks, Jimmy had some comments about, what the team has been going through this year. I'm going to play it for our audience, and I don't know if you heard it or not, but I'm sure you did, because Spo addressed it. But this is what Jimmy had to say after the loss to the Knicks.
I mean, I'm at a point now, I think everybody is, where it doesn't surprise us. We really get bored with the process, and I can't tell you why. And, we play hard, and sometimes we get back in the game like we did tonight, and sometimes we don't. But either way it goes, if we just play basketball the right way the entire game, I don't think that we're in that situation more often than not. But for some odd reason, we think it's going to be easy, so we just go out there and go through the motions.
What did you make of Jimmy's comments, John, about just getting bored with the process of their kind of up and downness that they've struggled with this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, I hear frustration in his voice. I think he's a guy who does play hard and leaves it out there every single game, to his credit. So I hear frustration there. I mean, there's nothing else that I hear. And frankly, I want my star guys feeling it. I want them to take pride in winning. I want them to, voice, hey, look, this isn't good. We don't want to lose. I think the idea that we got to play harder, this is the stretch run, and to galvanize everyone together is important. At the end of the day here, you can have all the scheming, all the systems you want. It comes down to the guys in the room being able to pull together and play hard to be competitive, however you got to do it to win.
You think Jimmy has to be more direct, and just start, I'm not saying in public, but behind closed doors at practice during the game, start calling guys out to hold them accountable? Or because it seems like everybody just makes the assumption that everybody else is going to do the right thing. And when it doesn't happen, we hear stuff like this from Jimmy or other players, saying we need to do this or we're not doing that. But you got to kind of hold each other accountable with that.
Yeah, no, I think, Leroy, I do think he's the kind of guy who's doing that every day anyway.
Right.
He's not one to bite his tongue and check himself that way. I think he goes after guys too, in terms of actually in practice, the way he plays, not just verbally. So I think that's there. I think, part of it is just collectively continuing to hold the course. Here's the thing, guys. I mean, even with the frustration of where we're at, they're in a playoff position.
Mhm.
They're going there. There's a situation now where when I was looking at the standings here, you got Brooklyn, who is kind of in a free fall because of all the personnel changes they've made. If you're trying to get yourself into the top 6, so you're not in that play-in game. If you're in the 7th or 8th seed, you're in that position where you have, major, potential slippage if you get into a play-in game where anything can happen, right? You have a guy roll an ankle and all of a sudden it's a 1-2 game thing and you're out before you even get a chance to get into the playoffs. If you're in 6th, now you're locked in, you have a 7-game series against somebody. I think that's the major goal. I think that's what everyone's playing for right now, is just to get in up above that number and lock it in. Not going to be easy, but to me, defensively is where they got to focus. It's not the sexiest thing. They're not the highest scoring team. In fact, they're the lowest scoring team in the league. So they got to focus. You're not going to like overnight flip the switch on that. You got to be even nastier defensively. They've had, before the last win against Atlanta, the previous 3 first halves were giving up 70 or more points in that first half. That's not Miami Heat basketball. You got to be tougher and nastier on the defensive end. Technique-wise, you got to control the guy that has the ball, be accountable to your teammates there and locked in to guard that guy hard. And, that was not happening. And to me, right now, that's what they can control, the defensive end. Obviously, you're continuing to work and try to be smoother on the offensive end, but it's like you're not going to go from 30 to first, right? You may move incrementally. Defensively is where you can be more consistent and win games.
You were mentioning this on the broadcast with Eric, because Bam had a really nice offensive game against the Hawks, and he, he's been playing fine, but like not quite to his all-star level. So it was great to see that. And I thought Tyler had a really great weekend too. Great game against the Knicks, and then a great fourth quarter against Atlanta. Those two guys, John, just getting back on that consistent offensive track, like how much smoother do you think that will make things?
Yeah, I think it makes it in a big time way. And I'm talking about Bam first. Bam, to me, played and deserved to be an all-star this year. He's been outstanding, and he's become a consistent 20-point, 10-rebound guy, which is awesome. And then he does so much more in regards to defending and also facilitating as a guy who can look over top and make plays, or as a dribble handoff guy. But he really got away from doing a lot of the dirty work and some of the hustle plays, I thought, during that losing streak, and can't really put a finger on why, but it just, he clearly, the coaching staff definitely, got back to him on that. And I thought we saw the Bam that had been an all-star all year long in that Atlanta game, scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, being able to set up guys, and then defensively with a couple of steals or blocks. He was outstanding.
John, have you ever gone?
And then you talk about Tyler too. Let me just jump in on Tyler. Tyler has to be that guy, I think, who continues to play with confidence down the stretch. And we saw that against, Atlanta. 22 points, he and Bam being able to make plays down the stretch. Tyler has just such ignitability that way, guys. When our offense is stagnant, he and Jimmy tend to be the guys who really get us going.
Have you ever been in a situation where you were playing your best basketball and it just fell off a cliff to where you couldn't make a shot, you couldn't do the things you normally do in a basketball court? And what did you do to turn it around? Because I mean, like you said, the shots are there. They're getting the same open shots. They're just not making them.
Yeah, well, from beyond the arc, I agree. I've had those situations as a guard. You can go through streaks where you're not, you're missing shots because it's a lot harder. Obviously, you can't get easy baskets. You can't get tip-ins and easy layups. You're 6'2" going against 7-footers trying to finish at the rim. So it becomes a lot more challenging. So, the way I always tried to look at it is you do the other little things. You make the hustle plays defensively if you can get some stops. And this has been part of Miami's recipe and formula all year long. You get the stops, you force turnovers, which Miami was number one in the league at for a while. Now you're jump starting your offense, right? You're getting numbers in transition on the break. You're getting those 3-on-2, 2-on-1 runouts, and you're not working against an opposing 5-man, connected half-court defense. You have them on their heels, and you're able to get easier baskets. And for an offense that has struggled being able to score the ball, being able to get 15 to 20 something points a game in transition is really, really important.
John, what have you made early impressions of Kevin Love and his insertion into the starting lineup since they got him in here, and I guess the trickle down has just had on the team?
Yeah, I like what Kevin Love brings because I think he's a bona fide 3-point shooting threat along with Bam, where he can stay outside. Bam can be on the interior as the paint guy. It's really, to me, when I think about it, when you think about a pairing in the front court, I think he's really brings more than any other guy that Bam's played. I mean, you could look at like a Myers Leonard or someone like that, but he's not quite as skilled and certainly doesn't have the resume of a Kevin Love. So I like that Kevin Love's a 3-point shooter. I love his rebounding ability. The numbers he puts up is amazing. He's a great positional rebounder. What's been fun for me is watching him on his outlet passes. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but the way he takes it off the glass, and it's allowed Miami to play a little bit faster and get some easier baskets too. But the way he'll make that half court, 3/4 court pass as a chest pass, which is impressive. And then, along those lines, Brendan, I would say, Cody Zeller too. I mean, I've been really impressed with what he's been able to bring because frankly, he hadn't played the entire year. So I thought there might be a workup, of having to get him into some level of shape, but he's come in and just plays so hard. He's given the team a great lift. I thought Caleb Martin and he in the last game against Atlanta were critical. Our bench, has struggled at times being able to score with Victor coming back from the injury and not really getting back to his offensive self. So, the scoring and those types of, tangible production is really much needed.
Yeah, that's been my favorite part of it because I feel like Caleb just feels like Caleb is having a nice season, but obviously was doing a role that's not the most comfortable thing for him. He looks just so much more at home now, being like that just all energy, all out, just type of guy to just provide a spark.
Yeah, I mean, he's truly a wing player, and he was having to guard guys that were, he's like 6'5", about 205, 210 pounds. He's guarding 6'10", 250-pound guys on a regular basis. It just beats the hell out of you. Yeah. So, it was hard for him to kind of get to his speed game. But it's not easy also being a starter and getting those kind of minutes, and you can kind of pace yourself and find, your opportunities. Now he's coming in off the bench, and it's just, all out all the time. And he runs that wing well. I think he's, one of our best finishers when you get it to him in transition, when he comes off that line, just coming on top of the basket with that right hand dunk. He's been a very consistent, one of our best 3-point shooters throughout the course of the year as well. So I think he's fit in extremely well, and he obviously can guard multiple positions, which is just so valuable from a coaching staff perspective.
Before we get you out of here, John, the other piece of news, it looks like we may be getting the debut of Ömer Yurtseven tonight. A couple big games in the G League. It looked like they were going to have a nice role cut out for him this year, John, whatever it was going to be. Yeah. Do you see that being the case when he comes back? Because, like you said, Cody Zeller has been playing great. So I don't know where, Spo will find the minutes. He always calls these first-class problems. But, what do you think Ömer can bring just kind of being dropped with, a dozen and a half regular season games left? What can we expect from him?
Well, the thing that's been so it's a shame, right? Because I had similar thoughts where, it'd have been great to give him an opportunity to play with Bam more and see how they sync up, because he does have 3-point shooting ability. Now, he's not the 3-point shooter that Kevin Love is by any stretch, but to me, he has that capability. And we saw what he could do rebounding the ball last year when Bam had that thumb issue and was out, an extended period of time. He came in, he set a rookie record for double-figure rebounding games. He was outstanding, and he could finish in the paint. He's got nice touch, and he's just naturally very long and athletic. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's worked into the rotation. It's going to be a bit challenging. He's behind the curve there, but I think, look, give him credit for coming back from the injury and playing now in the G League the way he did. He's handled it extremely well. I think he's shown that he's got the skill set. I think the hardest thing for him right now will be, every one of these games is so important for Miami. It's not easy for the coaching staff to really think about Ömer as much as, just the team and trying to do what's best for the team. And Zeller is playing at such a high level. I think it will be hard to inject him into that lineup.
Appreciate the time, John. Thanks so much. We'll see you at the arena tonight.
Thanks, John.
There you go. John Crotty. Catch him tonight with Eric Reed on Bally Sports Sun. 7 o'clock is when their coverage gets going. We, of course, have a 7:30 tip-off from Miami-Dade Arena. And you, of course, can listen to that game right here on 560 WQAM. Solano will get you going with preheat at 6:15.